I mean, man, a SouFlo, man, come make we reason with intelligence.
Hunger flag, how can play this? Whoa, 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 SouFlo. SouFlo, you king turn up loud, you know the boy. SouFlo.
SouFlo turn up the thing.
And we say productivity and progress enough. Here we are, once again. Welcome back to SouFLoTV again, everybody. It's your host with the most. And this caption for this picture says it right. Valley of Decision, which is where we sit. Amber Geiger fired from Dallas Police Department after shooting of Botham Jean is what's trending on today's headline. Alright, this is something that we really need to talk about. So, if you don't know, Geiger shot Jean after she said she mistakenly entered his apartment on September 6th. She was a Dallas police officer, and she shot and killed a man in his apartment, claiming she went to the wrong floor, mistook his apartment for hers, and walked inside and took this man's life, thinking it was a burglar. She was fired today. The story reads like this from the Tribune. Dallas police officer Amber Geiger has been fired after the fatal shooting of Botham Jean, an unarmed black man in his apartment. On September 6th, Geiger returned to her apartment complex after a shift, entered the wrong unit exactly one floor above her own, and shot and killed a 26-year-old male, according to her arrest affidavit. Geiger said she mistook the apartment for her own and thought Jean was an intruder. Imagine that. Jean's family lawyer said that the officer's statement is demonstrably false. Demonstrably false. Geiger was arrested and charged with manslaughter in Jean's death in the days after the shooting, but she had remained on the city's payroll as she was on administrative leave. A lot of people were protesting. They were saying, oh, hell no, she needs to be fired, right? And people were also saying that this was no manslaughter. This was murder. Her continued employment brought protests and harsh criticism from members of the community. The Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke. The police department originally said the firing decision would be on hold until after the criminal investigation, according to the Dallas Morning News. But on Monday, the department issued a statement saying that Geiger had been fired in a hearing after Internal Affairs had conducted their review. Now, clap, clap, clap. That's one small step of victory. I don't want everybody to start celebrating yet, okay? Because you know how the system works. It has a way of coming back around to kick you in the ass when you least expect it. But nonetheless, it's a small victory. It looks like it's heading in the right direction, okay? So, if you don't remember, she was first arrested. She was released on her bond was set at $300,000. Somebody paid $30,000 cash up front to get her out immediately and kept her on payroll. The same people that kept her on payroll. This infuriated residents throughout the city. Now, it's unclear what exactly led to Geiger's firing. The statement does not mention the shooting itself, but cites her actions when she was arrested 3 days later. So it did not say anything about she was arrested because of what happened at the shooting. I know people are going to ask, why did they arrest her? Did Internal Affairs do an investigation and they found like the marijuana that was in the apartment was not hers? Did they find out that she was lying about something or whatever? They're saying it's not said in the statement, but it did mention that it was because of her actions when she was arrested 3 days later. I don't know what that means, but we're about to find out. A Dallas Police Department spokesperson declined to specify and pointed to the press release when questioned about what exactly led to her termination. Last week, the Dallas Police Chief, Renee Hall, said at a town hall that she couldn't yet fire Geiger in the shooting because of local, state, and federal laws. But she did not elaborate on what those were. According to WFAA-TV, the station reported that the Department General orders allows for the chief to bypass formal disciplinary procedures if she deems it necessary to preserve the integrity of the department. Now I must tell you that this chief happens to be a black woman. This case took on a whole meaning of its own. Now here you have a white female officer, right, in Texas that walks into a black man's apartment, shoots and kills him, and her chief happens to be a black woman. But she is not hasty to fire or to come to any rushed decision. Now I'm going to say this real quick, and I might be a little bit off base here, and I want you to correct me in the comment section if I am wrong. But we cannot help but looking at all angles of this. Let's switch this around for a second. Let's say, this was a black police officer, man, that walked into a white woman's apartment, shot her, killed her, and his excuse was he got off work, he was tired, he went to the wrong floor, he thought it was his door, despite the big old red mat, which is the only red mat or mat for that matter at the door, and you as an officer who is trained to pay attention to detail. This lady right here is the chief, okay? Now you're trained to pay attention to detail, but a black man walks into a white woman's apartment in police uniform, shoots and kills her. What do you think the public would be saying right now? Leave your comment in the comment section below. I don't mean to stir anything up. We just need to keep this as realistic as possible, okay? Now, Hall also said that she didn't want to compromise the criminal investigation according to the news. One of Jean's family's attorneys wrote on Facebook on Monday that Hall, the black woman in the police uniform, the chief that I just showed you, had told Jean's parents that their attorney Sunday that she intended to fire Geiger. I guess she had gotten wind of information from Internal Affairs by then. Hall said the delay was because a premature administrative suspension could have possibly implicated Geiger's Fifth Amendment protection and compromised the criminal prosecution, wrote attorney Lee Merritt. Now we must understand that the wheels of justice are turning, and sometimes they turn extremely slow. Sometimes there's no justice at all. And people are antsy about this case. They want justice, and rightfully so. I mean, this was, let's be honest, this was no brother that had his pants off his ass, no master of the English language, a street dude, or a street nigga. He was well educated, he had a career field, and he was well put together and very much involved in his community, right? Known all over as a friendly person and a very intelligent, smiling individual. At home, in the privacy of his home, his life was taken by law enforcement. Alright, so our campaign has kicked off for our Strength of a Nation campaign. Alright, make sure you support our Strength of a Nation campaign by buying one of these beautiful pieces that you see in this video right here. $1 from every sale will go towards our charity of choice, and our charity of choice is forjamaica.org. Go look them up. In case you're wondering how to purchase one of these beautiful pieces, on every video on SouFLoTV, look right underneath the video and you will see a piece of merchandise. Click that and purchase directly right here on YouTube. Thanks in advance. It's sad. The way it happened was sad, and it's something that we have to live with, but I think the least that they can do is have justice be served. The Jean family expressed satisfaction in their explanation and in Geiger's termination. His family is happy that she got fired. We see it as an initial victory, well received on the day Botham Jean is laid to rest in his native country in St. Lucia. Merritt said he still is committed to seeing a conviction and appropriate sentence on charge of murder, not manslaughter. Often, a delay between criminal charges being filed against an officer in a police shooting and a firing. So this is normal procedure. Police departments, they struggle to balance accountability while also giving a fair review of the officer's actions. Often the department will wait until after a grand jury indicts the officer before making a final employment decision. But not always so. For instance, former Officer Roy Oliver was fired by the smaller neighboring department of Balch Springs 3 days after he shot and killed a 15-year-old named Jordan Edwards last year. He has been sentenced to 15 years on a murder conviction, and Dallas itself has fired officers within weeks of police shootings, though one officer of such who was fired was actually rehired after a grand jury declined to indict him. So you see how this process goes. In this particular case though, however, Geiger continued employment sparked protests in Dallas and became a flashpoint in the U.S. Senate race between Republican incumbent Ted Cruz and O'Rourke. O'Rourke had expressed support for firing Geiger after the shooting, while Cruz had cautioned against a rush to judgment. The two clashed over the issue in their first debate Friday in Dallas. So how easily this turns into political pawn. But isn't it always like that? The common man's life turned into a political pawn for politicians to use to argue against each other to gain points. On Monday afternoon, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings issued a statement saying he agreed with the department's decision to fire Geiger. The swift termination of any officer who engages in misconduct that leads to the loss of an innocent life is essential if the Dallas Police Department is to gain and maintain the public's trust, he said. Now, I want you to go look up the picture of this person, Mayor Mike Rawlings. Okay? See, for people outside of Texas, see, I've worked and played in Texas for a while, right? And I've come to notice a lot of things, and some of my preconceived notions and my misconceptions have been put to rest. Now, is there racism in Texas? Sure there is. Is there racism in Texas more so than any other place in the USA? I don't know. I honestly cannot say, because I've been to a lot of different parts of Texas and I've probably experienced more racism in other parts of America than Texas. Not to mention here, mayors and police department chiefs are African Americans here. Also, I've bore witness to the fact that there are large African American communities and also very integrated communities in the state of Texas. So this is not the Texas that we think of when we think of back in the day and we think of lynching and we think of, not to say it doesn't happen, because it does. It still does to this day. Okay? But I'll never forget Bird that was tied up to the back of the truck and drugged down until his body parts fell off. But I'm saying, it's not your 10-gallon hat and your pointy cowboy boots with that deep southern twang spitting tobacco and you can't be caught round here after sundown, boy. It's not like that in certain places. Certainly not like that in this part of Dallas where this incident took place. Does that stop an individual from having ulterior motives and using their position of authority to exact revenge in the name of their organization that they belong to outside of the uniform? You see where I'm going with this? It's a proven fact, okay, that the police departments in the United States of America, many of them have been infiltrated by white supremacy groups. Men and women who have actually placed themselves there. I want to be a police officer so I can kill a black person or a person of color. That's one kill for the KKK or whatever white supremacy group it is that they belong to. So it's a dangerous thing when you have a white woman in Texas walks into a black man's apartment, kills him. To this day, the details are sketchy as to how she got into the apartment. Experts are coming forward and are saying that these doors, heavy steel doors, are designed to lock after you enter them. They are opened only with an electronic key card. Even if the key card malfunctions, the door is designed to lock after you enter it. Say for instance, Botham Jean walked into his apartment, right, and forgot to turn around like I have to do with my apartment. I have to turn around. I have to manually turn the lock with my fingers, and then I have to put the chain on the door. These doors in this apartment we're talking about is very different. And I've seen these. I've lived behind them before. I've stayed in these places before. If your key card is swiped at the wrong door, you will get a red light and sometimes a beep, not your door. So I could see how, in the officer's defense, ex-officer now, defense, that she would say, given that, I'm going to say the door was already open. And it was put in writing before, in her first set of testimonies before she got an attorney, that he came to the door. The door was locked, and corroborated with witness testimony who saw her out there yelling, "Let me in, let me in." Why would someone be yelling, "Let me in," at an open door? All these things still need to be explained. I leave this picture here for a good while for you to have a good look at it. How could you mistake this door for your door when you are trained to pay attention to detail? Now, the toxicology report has not come back as yet. I don't know why it's taking so long. And we've had this discussion before where we talked about, hey, these people are in a position of power. They can actually manipulate the outcome of the toxicology report to say that this person had nothing in their system, and the victim actually was high as hell and left the door open because he was so high and fell asleep and jumped up when he was startled, and she in turn thought she was being attacked and being robbed, and he was too high to hear, "Put your hands up." And you see where this is going. And I thought that was the case that was being built, and I said, this is looking dangerous. She looks like she might walk. But after today, after receiving this news that she was fired, I can tell you this. They went through the lengths to pay $30,000 cash to get her out on bail. So to turn around and fire her after internal affairs had done their investigations, this is to tell you that someone thinks that she is guilty. I wouldn't be surprised if her charges are up to murder, right? At all. Now, What I want you to do is be careful out there, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave your comment in the comment section below. It's SouFlo. I'm out.